Hello and welcome to the LRM podcast in association with Britpart. I'm Martin Dominy.
And I'm Steve Miller.
And you're joining us for an hour of chat about all things Land Rover and everything involved with owning them. Do you know what I found myself doing this week, Steve?
Working on a Land Rover?
No, actually, I've been reading about working on a Land Rover, but I've been falling into the trap that I think a lot of people do when they've got a big job ahead of them, and that is that I over-research. I go on the internet.
Oh, dangerous place.
And I scare myself out of doing things because I've done too much reading and I haven't just got on with it.
A bit like when you look at instructions and they overcomplicate it and the picture doesn't make a lot of sense.
It can be like that, yeah. I mean, obviously when we do the how-to guides in Land Rover Monthly, the idea of that is to make it seem, you know, as least daunting as possible all the way through, and it's quite clear and concise. And, you know, if you're looking to do a job, they are a great place to start. But on the internet, and certainly not so much videos, but reading things, reading what people have done, and, you know, forums and things like that, the ones that still exist, it's very easy to get inside your own head and sort of, you know, get too nervous and too het up about doing something. Whereas in reality, if you just had it right in front of you, you'd find it a lot easier.
So I found that when you assemble flat pack furniture, sometimes, well, Land Rover's a bit like that, isn't it?
I suppose, yeah.
Component form, and sometimes you just got to look at what's involved. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and actually, you're better off in some cases just skipping that step of making yourself worry and just cracking on with it. And it'll all become apparent, and the stages you go through, taking something apart and putting it back together, you know, it stores that. You remember things a lot more readily than sometimes you think you might.
I've always been able to take something apart, but never been able to put something back together.
You do hear that a lot. That is a problem a lot of people seem to suffer with. But
what projects are 99% finished?
Or 50% finished in that you've taken them apart. They haven't just quite made it back together again.
50% yet to start.
Yeah, exactly. You're at the bottom of that slope of, you know, things quite easy. You've taken stuff
point of no return.
Almost like we spoke about it briefly before, your 90 project, which is a rolling chassis but hasn't actually evolved any further from that yet because you took it apart about 6 years ago.
It wasn't 6 years ago. I'll tell you when it was. It was, you know, when COVID first came about and we went into that period of really glorious weather.
Yeah, and it was so hot and everyone was living the dream because it was like super sunny and hot. It was like being on holiday.
Yeah, although we still produced Land Rover Monthly.
Of course.
I know my wife was home during COVID, and I remember just looking at my Land Rover and think, I'm going to re-chassis my Land Rover. I've got all the time in the world now. And then obviously real life isn't quite as simple as that. So it's finding time, isn't it?
I think.
But that's what is daunting about Land Rover projects sometimes, if you do take something into pieces, if you're not then putting it back together again and bits get strewn around the gap.
Yeah, that's
where I'm at.
A trap a lot of people fall into, and I've got advice from a few different companies and people, and they've said if you're doing a replacement rather than a full restoration or a rebuild, take it apart in as many big chunks as you can, and don't leave, you know, weeks, months before you put it back together, because you need it to be fresh in your mind, or as fresh as it can be.
I remember working with Ed Evans, our technical editor, and Britpart's Steve Grant.
Yes.
Where a few years ago now, when we took on the project of that field find stage 1 V8, and we re-chassied it at Britpart.
Right.
And whereas I would, in my own time, would take something to pieces in double quick time, using the angry spanner in most cases.
Yeah.
Also known as the angle grinder. Is kind of when Steve and Ed set about taking the stage 1 apart, I thought we were going to be taking it apart forever.
Right.
It was because they were documenting it and putting everything in its larger component form on the shelf.
Yeah.
Before, and I was thinking,
like categorising everything rather than just.
I felt a bit frustrated because I was thinking we're never going to get this to pieces, but then on assembly time,
it pays off.
It paid off.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's where we made up the ground, and that's why you can actually do a chassis change on a Land Rover fairly quickly if you're a bit more organised. I should practice what I preach, really, but a lot of people are more organised.
You hear all sorts of them. I get, obviously, for the work in progress pages and readers' rovers in Land Rover Monthly magazine, people will send me in pictures of them and their mates, and they'll re-chassis like a Series 88 in a weekend. You know, people that you're a fairly competent mechanic and you know what's going on, and you've got the space to do it and the tools are there. You can have one apart and back together. Yeah, you're not going to be repainting axles and, you know, redoing the interior and you're not doing a rebuild as such. You're not doing a restoration.
You're doing a chassis swap.
Yeah, that's exactly. And especially if you've got a Ram, Defenders and Series, you can lift the body off pretty much in one piece, which speeds up the process enormously.
I remember a few years ago, there was a couple of advertisers in Land Rover Monthly that would advertise for £2,500 plus the VAT. They would supply and fit a chassis to a Defender.
Really?
Those days,
£2,500.
Yeah.
Wow.
But around that, I think it was nearly 3,000 if it was long wheelbase. Those days are long gone.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, a Galv chassis costs about that, doesn't it now?
And the truth is, you know, no Land Rover when it comes to pieces is kind of
they're very
rarely can you put it back together without other components rusting, like the aluminium that gets eaten.
The mounting points on the tub, things like that, the wiring, brake pipes often need replacing, things like that. But you often find companies as well, they'll take on a chassis replacement, but they'll say to the customer ahead of time, it will be, I can't quote you accurately, it may be around this. They'll give you a worst case scenario, but they don't want to put their name to a scruffy Land Rover that's just had a new chassis slung under it. They want to do a proper job. So, you know, strip all the suspension, rebush everything.
While you're there, you may as well.
Exactly.
So you clutching it.
So many things
as well.
Make
the list. Yeah,
sense to do. Same with lifting the body off on Discovery 3 and 4 and Range Rover Sport. If you're doing a big job and you need to take the body off the chassis, which is a fair undertaking in itself, but again, with a 2-post ramp, it's not rocket science. But once that's off, there's so many jobs that are, you know, staring you in the face that you might as well tackle while it is split, that it makes sense to spend the extra money on the parts and just do it, because you'll thank yourself down the road.
Definitely, if you're going to invest, we spoke about this the other day, didn't we? Investing in the car.
Yeah, definitely.
For long-term use.
Absolutely. Go on, sorry.
No, I was going to say, we were talking about cars and investments earlier, weren't we? When we spotted a really nice classified on the Land Rover Monthly website.
I can't believe that hasn't sold. It's a Defender 110 200 TDI that's been built for overland travel, and it did a big expedition back in 2005, 2006. So they've owned it a long while.
They've got a whole story,
whole website.
The whole website is devoted to it.
It's really nice red station wagon. It's got front and rear air locking diffs, galvanised chassis, galvanised bulkhead. All the doors have been changed. It's got split charge and other, you know, overlandy stuff.
Some really nice equipment.
You could take that and take it back to a sort of everyday vehicle that, you know, didn't have all the overland gear on it if you wanted to, but it's like £14,000. It's such good value. I cannot believe it hasn't sold.
Build. You couldn't even buy a basket case 110 and re-chassis it.
I know.
For that
I was almost skipping down to the bank to ask nicely if they'd lend me
Dr. Barclays or
West or something. Could I pass up this opportunity? But I can't. Yeah, it really is unbelievable. And we've had it on. I featured it on one of our vehicles for sale newsletters. Which, by the way, if you don't subscribe to already, you should, because you will find gems like this. And yeah, just can't believe it's still there.
Well, I've mentioned before, my two Land Rovers were both found on classifieds, and they sort of, someone's got to buy them. It may as well be me.
The market is changing a lot. I think it's becoming more of a buyer's market. Certainly, Defenders now, the values aren't crashing, but they're not what they were. And there's so many of them about now that you can really take your pick, which is brilliant if you're in the market for one.
It's definitely, but I think the market in general has fallen into what enthusiasts.
Back to how it was.
How it was.
Yes.
It's a nice place to be.
I completely agree, and actually series as well have taken a bit of a dip, but hopefully that will encourage people who, when this is, you know, maybe a bit priced out during, you know, COVID and the years that followed, who thought, oh, I'll never be able to have one because, you know, they're a lot of money. Now that they have come back down to that attainable price point, or they're getting there, hopefully you'll see more enthusiasts getting into them. You'll see more being used for, you know, green laning and trialing and all the things that the really expensive ones you wouldn't necessarily use for. So it's sort of perhaps returning to that grassroots sort of back to basics, fix it yourself mentality.
Tell you what I did the other day after one of our previous episodes of the podcast was we mentioned Freelander tees, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why, but I found myself looking at the prices of Freelander tees, only because you said about, you know, some of the modifications you've seen at Muddy Mods.
Oh, yeah.
And they're pretty impressive looking things. Having owned one previously, I couldn't believe how many there are for sale and how much good value they appear to be.
I think a lot of it comes down to the ULEZ. Inside the M25, you're penalised. It's like £12 a day, isn't it, if you want to drive a diesel car?
Such a buyer's market. Freelander 2.
And again, because they've lasted so well comparatively, Freelander 2, there's a lot of them about as well. So you've got a lot of choice. Like I say, the ULEZ thing has played a part. And yeah, they're brilliant value. They're really, really good value. And you often see the question asked, oh, I've got X amount of money. Should I buy a Freelander 1 or a Freelander 2? And Freelander 1, you're in one of either camp normally. Some people own both. Freelander 1 I found was fantastic and a really nice sort of basic vehicle to own. The facelift version for me is much, much nicer than the pre-facelift. The interior is in a different league. And then it jumped again when it went to Freelander 2. And they're so well built. You know,
well, your one defies the mileage it has on it.
I like to think so.
I've only ever been a passenger in it, but it does drive particularly nicely.
You know, I like to keep on top of it because it's dependable. I need to be able to jump in it and go up the other end of the country or whatever, and it does that. It's, you know, the only time it's ever put a foot wrong for me was I fitted the crank sensor was playing up a little bit. It would sort of hiccup at low speed, so I bought a new crank sensor off an unknown website and fitted it, and the crank sensor would work fine until it got hot, and then it would just pack up. And luckily for me, the one time it did get hot and just shut off completely, I just pulled off the motorway and I managed to find somewhere safe to stop. I still had the original in the glove box, so I managed to get down in the engine bay with a 10mm and a 1/4-inch ratchet and changed the crank sensor at the side of the road. And I put the original one, which was faulty before, back on, and it hasn't missed a beat since.
So are you still on the same crank?
Yeah, the original one, which I took off because I thought it was playing up. I don't know, it might have been the wiring might be getting a little bit old or a poor connection, but it hasn't put foot wrong since that day. So,
but you've just given it you've got to touch wood right now.
Well, absolutely. You've always got to do that. The worst thing you can do, I've found, is compliment your Land Rover to someone else. I did that when I had a Discovery 1. I met up with a friend who I hadn't seen for years. Oh, it's such a great car. It never lets me down. It's brilliant, fantastic. The next day, I was driving home from work and the tensioner pulley, which holds the belt on for all like the water pump, power steering, alternator, just sheared off the front of the engine.
That's lady.
The stud just snapped. So I was like, oh, I had to buy a 90-degree drill adapter from Screwfix and drill this broken bit out, mess around, and so yeah, it wasn't much fun. So never ever tell anyone your Land Rover's running well because it will bite you. They listen. Yeah, trust me.
Yeah, I was just about to say how well mine is driving.
Yeah, it's dangerous territory. Don't do it. You curse it.
But one thing I will say though, I was looking at Freelander 2s on Facebook Marketplace, and I noticed fairly well written advert. I can't remember the price. Let's say it was £3,000 thereabouts for a facelift Freelander 2. And I noticed the way that it worded about no scratches, dinks. They use the word dinks and dents and dinks. And then I can't believe how cheap these are. So I looked at another one, and they used similar words. And these are otherwise normal-looking sellers.
Right.
And then I went to a different one, a different part of the country, and there was other words very similar. So I think people do have to be very, very careful.
It is
for scam adverts.
Without a doubt. It's not so much, I haven't found it to be quite so much of a problem on eBay because it's slightly better policed, but Marketplace is an absolute wild west. You have got to be on the top of your game to spot what's really.
Even though I would say I understand Land Rover values, I was lured in by a price thinking, wow, they've come down.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, so what I would say is if anyone ever phones one of these adverts and you didn't know and somebody wants you to transfer deposits.
Never, ever do that.
Without seeing the car, or the car is in Spain at the moment.
No, that's the classic, isn't it?
Always somewhere else. Do not do it.
No, never, ever.
I've had people phone me before and say, are you aware of this scam or that scam? One thing I will say is, and I can't promise this, but all the vehicles that are on our own website, so the classifieds of Land Rover Monthly's website, we vet them before we set them live.
Yeah.
So if anything looks too good to be true, we will check it out first before actually pulling the trigger and letting it be live.
All the ads on our marketplace are manually authorised. So it's not like...
By you or I.
Yeah, absolutely. So it isn't like Facebook where anyone can set up an account and then put anything they want on without any sort of, confirmation of who they are or accuracy of the advert. The other thing that I've noticed recently is that eBay was maybe not perhaps recent, but eBay now offer a service where if you're selling something, including a car, you can have AI write the description for you. Oh, it makes me rage. If I see a picture of a car on eBay, I think, do you know what? I'll have a go on that. I'll click on that. And the description is written by AI, turns me off instantly. Not interested. If you haven't got the effort and the discipline to write the description for your own car, I don't want to deal with you.
AI has, I think, its place, but not selling cars.
It doesn't know anything about your car. It doesn't. How can it know all your experiences from, however many months, years you've owned it? It doesn't. It just spills off this generic nonsense about the, it's like they've copied and pasted from Wikipedia.
1991.
Exactly.
Cool. I just showed. I think no. That has nothing to do with whether that car's going to get me to work or not.
And I tell you, Tom Barnard, market expert, who does a column every month in the magazine, would agree with me. We'll have to get him on actually as a guest. It's just, it really does upset me greatly.
Definitely. Although you've got to look into what people write about their cars, because some people, non-car folk, and we spoke about non-car folk before, but they sometimes don't know what to write. They'll put new battery. Oh, that's a good selling point, isn't it?
It's difficult.
New windscreen.
Yeah, you can often spot them, and when they're genuine. A really good tip for Marketplace is if you click on a car and it's either got a very generic description or you're not sure if it's priced too well, if it's too good to be true, it normally is. If you click on the seller and look through their other items, they'll either, if it is a scam, they'll often have many other vehicles or objects for sale. Often they'll all be underpriced and they'll all be photographed in different places.
That is a good point, because they've scraped those pictures from other people's
they've literally
adverts.
just copied and pasted other people's pictures. And the other good one to look for is often, I don't know if AI write the descriptions for these people who do the scams, but a lot of cars for sale in the UK, there will be like a lot of Americanisms in the description. So it will be in dollars, or it will have a clean title. Things that you would never ever say if you were selling a car in the UK as a UK, even Americans in the UK. I've had dealings with Americans who are on the air bases selling cars and things like that. They never say it's got a clean title because it's not called that in the UK. It's a V5 or a logbook. So there's all these little things that you can look out for to try and safeguard yourself, but never ever send anyone any money on a bank transfer or PayPal, friends and family, if you're not stood in front of the car and you've got the keys in your hand, because it is a recipe for disappointment and pain.
Big time. So here's a question then.
Go on.
When you see a car advertised or a Land Rover advertised on anywhere, but the seller has put a piece of rag over the number plate so you can't do your own searches, What's your take on that?
I always message them. If it's something I'm genuinely interested in, I'm not going to waste anyone's time. I will say, can I have the reg number because I'd like to do an MOT history or a HPI check? And normally they do. I don't know why people do it, really, because you can walk around the streets, you can drive through a town and everyone's number plate is on display. I think people are worried about cloning, but I don't know how that happens, really.
But you can clone a car. Do you know, another thing, so this is quite interesting. If you Google the number plate of an old car that you used to have, or your current car,
yeah,
if that has appeared anywhere on the website, on a website anywhere, or on the internet, it will find it.
That's interesting. I've never tried that.
No, so I Googled my first Land Rover, which I haven't owned for, let's say 25 years.
Yeah.
That's still on the road.
Is it really?
So a picture of it went to Goodwood Revival last year.
That is cool.
Now, the person who owns the car wasn't the person who took the picture. There's a picture of a lady, but she happened to be stood in the vicinity of my old Land Rover. So because it picked up the number...
Right, okay.
I think AI might have something to do with it, but it actually found it, so I know it's still on the road. Although you can do MOT checks and tax checks to find any of your old logbooks, but it's interesting to see what it looks like today.
Yeah, I bet. What does it look like?
Well,
what was it?
2A lightweight.
Was it? Oh, the 2A, of course.
The view of it is from the back, and I think it was green when I sold it. It's now blue, but it's taken on some really nice patina.
Has it?
Yeah.
Oh, you must show me that.
It was I think it was a 72 released from the army in 1980.
Right.
And it's kind of like, it's just nice. It's got a cap flap, hard top on the back, whereas it had a normal station wagon door
so it was still a hard top though?
I put a hard top on it.
Right.
It was a truck cab when I first got it. But yeah, I mean, I found quite a few of my old cars.
I'm not ever got there. I've never tried. Is it just a normal Google search, not image search?
No, so you type your number plate into Google and then go click images.
Right.
And then search through. Sometimes your number plate could be similar to a product code of a calculator or something. But then you keep looking, and all of a sudden, if you see anything remotely similar to your car, the chances are it was.
Wow.
So, yeah. If it's ever appeared anywhere in...
I never thought to do that, but I will.
Good.
Yeah. Talking of the internet, I did a Facebook and Instagram post on LRO. On LRM. God, that was a slip of the tongue, wasn't it? I remember LRO.
God, no, I can't remember that magazine. I think you used to work there once.
It still hurts, Steve. It still hurts.
I will say, I mean, yeah, Land Rover owner has been closed now for a year, and it does pain me because
I can't believe it.
I grew up.
Anyway, we mustn't linger on this. I put a picture up on the socials of Land Rover Monthly of a sticker that I'd seen on the back of a Land Rover, and it triggered all these memories of great, or some great, some not so great stickers over the, through the years, and what you used to see on almost every Land Rover, Range Rover, out and about, and they had that sort of identified you as an enthusiast, a Land Rover person, if you had like the old One Life Live It or.
But one I don't know where I sit with one wife. One wife live it.
That was another classic.
One wife live it is a T-shirt that we used to make. We used to have merchandise. We may bring merchandise back.
I think we should.
One wife livid.
Yeah,
fantastic. Sticker and T-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. What else was there? Oh, the one that I posted was it was a V8 Land Rover. I think it was a 90. And the sticker was only milk and juice come in 2 litres, which I thought was quite funny.
Yes, it's not too bad. It's a V8, mate.
It's a V8, never late in a V8.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I remember there was an old truck cab, 2A or 3, I can't remember now, years ago. You used to drive around our local town and had mud flaps. Like the American trucks have back off.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of like the cartoon character.
Oh, the little Taz.
Taz, back off. This one was, I may be slow, but wait till the snow
Oh, wow.
Fantastic.
Oh,
He was slow as well.
That's good.
2.25 diesel.
What's the, if you think this is slow, wait till it goes uphill. That's another one. Beware falling parts.
Oh, I know one.
Go on.
No hill too steep, no ditch too deep.
Wow. That's...
Is it the best 4x4 by far?
Well, I don't think anyone can slate the original best 4x4 by far Land Rover slogan. I would have that sticker. You still see occasional ones.
You do. It's quite nice to see. Do you remember years ago, Land Rover Monthly had a round sticker that you'd put in your windscreen?
I know which one.
And you waved at.
A classic.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any surviving ones. If there is any surviving ones, please do send a picture to editorial@lrm.co.uk.
Do you think the wave and be waved at sticker should be brought back?
We should do a retro line of stickers. All the greats from over the years.
Yeah.
And not so great ones as well.
Well, what, like the one we had 99 problems, but a winch ain't one?
Yeah, that was a bit of a stretch, wasn't it?
That was good.
You like that?
I liked it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
We sold about one T-shirt.
If you can read this, please turn me over.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Pay and play sites.
Oh, yeah, you couldn't move for those stickers at Pay and Plays. Absolutely brilliant. There's some really, really imaginative and also some less imaginative stickers over the years. But, yeah. What other good ones have you seen? There must be some others.
Not a sticker, but a road sign. The speed limit, 85. But Land Rovers, do what you can.
Where was the speed limit? 85? I must find
kilometres or something. It's American. Look. I've got it on Google Images right now.
Oh, I see. Yeah, very good. No, number plates. Have you noticed that recently people have cottoned on to the fact that TD 50, 1, 2, 3, etc. make brilliant, affordable, cherished number plates for TD5s? Because with a little bit of imagination...
You can't get TD50 though, can you?
Yeah. You can get TD as the first two letters, then 51, which is
51. Sorry, 51, yes.
And then the last three. So I saw one for sale the other day. It was TD 51, cry. So on a vehicle, TD5, I cry. I thought that's like, and it was 250 quid. I thought that's really sort of, I don't know, I quite like that.
It's not too unreasonable.
I'm sure there's...
Have you seen, like, so my son rides around on a 125 and a Yamaha bike, and he's obsessed with his 4D number plate.
Right, okay.
And I don't like them.
They're not for me. They're not for me.
But I've seen recently, and I don't know whether you can actually, they're not legal, bubble plates.
Bubble plates?
So the backing is actually a shape like almost like bubbles.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Oh, no.
I'll have to Google that.
Just no.
There's a whole... I was thinking the other day, I was actually chatting to my mate the other day about modifications that you either see or you've seen over the years, and, you know, some have aged well and others haven't, and some of them were just awful when they first came out, and they sort of, I don't know, every time you see one, you sort of shudder and die a little bit inside, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, I know, I've never heard of these bubble number plates. I'll have to give that a bit of a Google. That's complete news to me.
That's painful. You can go fast, but I can go anywhere.
I like that one. It's harmless.
Yeah.
It's true a lot of the time.
Well, it depends on the tyres, though. As we discussed the other day in one of our podcasts, we discussed tyres.
Good bit of response from that one about the tyres, actually. A lot of people were saying, I completely forgot Michelin XCLs existed, but now I want some. Where can I buy them from?
I've had pictures emailed to me of worn out XCLs.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I was on a shoot with Alistair Cusick, actually, one of our contributors, and we saw a stack of them laying over at this guy's yard, and I had to go and take a picture because it was topical.
And I will say, actually, so one of our podcasts recently, we discussed engines, and we were talking about the classic Range Rover, the VM.
Oh, yes.
VM diesel.
Yes.
And you mentioned Tom.
There is an update.
There is an update. So that episode is featured on YouTube. So a mate of mine, Andrew Robinson, who is now a listener to this friend of the magazine, he shared with me the video clip, and so I watched it.
Chris Goffey. I can't believe I didn't remember it was Chris Goffey.
Chris Goffey, and it could have been filmed yesterday because he hasn't really changed.
No.
He looks a bit like, from here, he looks a bit like Noel Edmonds.
No, exactly.
But it didn't get a very good. He said all he kept saying is, "Look, my foot is to the floor and it's not moving."
It was very laggy, wasn't it? You had nothing, and then the turbo would whistle away and off you'd go. But I think the trouble was when the diesel VM came out, 2.4 and then later the 2.5, everyone had only experienced the V8 up till that point. So you were comparing a fairly rudimentary turbo diesel engine with the V8, the Rover V8, which of course is going to be far nicer in pretty much every respect.
And he talks about the noise that the engine produced as well. You kind of ruined the Range Rover experience for him. And it was just lovely to see that, these podcasts, although this is episode 3, and they're resonating with people and they're starting to share, things with us. And
it's almost dragging up a lot of old memories people will have, otherwise forgotten about. But then they go, oh, crikey, yeah, other people do remember that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And what's also been nice is that people have come forward and have asked if they can become a guest. So that's something that we will absolutely do, is bring people in and talk about...
Have a chat with them so they don't just have to listen to us yapping on about Land Rovers. They can listen to some other people.
They might actually get a bit bored of us. You don't know.
Well, I expect they will at some point. So, very exciting. Billing's coming up at the end of the month.
I'm actually really looking forward to it.
I am too.
I enjoyed that show. And so we're going to do some off-roading this time.
Yeah.
Often we're going to go on the Friday.
Yes.
And Riverside course.
Yeah. Very exciting.
So we'll have a go around there and we'll probably film some of that for our YouTube channel. So anyone that wants to watch that future episode can subscribe to Land Rover Monthly on YouTube.
Yeah, please do. We upload shorts every day as well, so you can get your fix of Land Rover stuff through that.
And we'll do the show and tell. So if anyone wants to show their vehicle, obviously if you're listening to this before the show, then email editorial@lrm.co.uk.
Come and have a chat, show it off lunchtime on days.
Yeah, we'll be on the stage, as it was. The show and tell stage.
No, it's a really good weekend. We really enjoyed it last year and it'll be great this year as well.
And the sun always shines at that show.
Yeah.
It's always been.
Mate, you've said that though. It's like saying your Land Rover's been good.
No.
Do you think it will come through? Like we did for Malvern. Yeah, that makes sense.
We did. Yeah. Well, it arrived, didn't it?
You did. Definitely. Yeah. It's a really, really good event, and definitely come and say hello. Come and get a subscription to the magazine as well, because it's not just podcasts we do. We do video and we do, good old magazines as well.
Yeah. Long live the magazine.
Long live the magazine.
Tell you what I bought the other day, right? I made a very small purchase, but slightly disappointing.
What's that?
I bought some cobalt drill bits, okay?
Okay.
And they are hardened to drill things like stainless steel, etc., etc. And I didn't realise, but there's 2 different types.
Right.
There's interesting fact. These contain 8% cobalt. Am I saying it right? Cobalt.
I don't know. Cobalt. I don't know.
Cobalt.
I think it's the cobalt.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
That's how I would say it. Anyway, I bought these drill bits, and M42 or M35.
Yeah.
So you've got 8% in the M42 and only 5% in M35. The 8% are quite brittle, but these drill bits have a lifetime guarantee.
Okay.
So if you snap one, you send it off to you send it off. You email the supplier and they send you a new one. But I snapped 4 already.
What are you doing with them?
Well,
they're not drifts, Steve. You're supposed to drill holes with them, not
seriously. So I was drilling the other day and snapped. But this is my interesting fact. So, if you have M42 cobalt drill bits, they are better in a pillar drill, so they don't have any lateral alignment.
Okay, that makes sense.
So now I'm going to use them in my pillar drill.
Okay.
But if you were to put them in a hand drill where you might have a bit of movement, you need the softer ones of M35.
So they're not quite as fussy about. They've got a bit of flex in them.
They have a bit of flex, so less brittle. So that is why I snap my drill bits.
Well, now you know.
Yeah.
Have you ever known the pain of drilling out a snapped off stud or something, and then the drill bit snaps off inside the thing you're drilling, and now you've got a snapped off drill bit and a broken stud?
Yes. What do you do then? Because I have actually done that.
Walk around the workshop and have a bit of a paddy, and then you sit down, have a cup of tea, and think about how you're going to get out of that situation.
Okay, I had to think, came up with no answers.
I've managed. It depends on the size of the stud, but if you can get a really small drill bit and you're very careful with it, you can go down the side of the broken bit until it's weakened all the metal around it, and sort of give it a wiggle and just pray that it's going to come out, and then continue with drilling the stud out. TD5 cylinder head studs where the exhaust manifold bolts on is the standard. You'll often hear a TD5 whistling from the exhaust, and that's because the manifold has warped and snapped the studs off. But it's actually, the studs do tend to sort of stick in place in the manifold, so you can't always tell that they've snapped until you take it off. But they can be fun to deal with because they're only M8 as well, so you haven't got loads of meat to...
You'd have to have a very small drill bit to go around the edge of the...
Well, with that situation, you would hope and pray that you didn't shear off your fancy cobalt drill bit in the snapped off bit of stud. But they were never a favourite job back in the day, TD5's exhaust manifold studs.
I can imagine a garage would have to charge, because if that happened in garage conditions and you were charging the customer, you would charge still by the hour that took you to fix, would it?
I don't really know.
Where's the fine line between mechanic error and it was just your situation?
It depends very much on the nature of the business, I think. A lot of companies, certainly dealers, will charge the customer book time. So Land Rover tell you how long that job takes. That's all you can charge. You can't say, well, it should have taken an hour.
But I snapped my drill.
But I snapped a drill bit off, and then went and drank 4 cups of tea, and then went on my lunch break, and then, did something else, and then came back. So I'm going to charge you 4 hours. You will only get charged the hour. Whereas, a lot of smaller garages, customers tend to have a bit more of an understanding about how these jobs can go, and that's maybe the reason they're not doing it themselves. So they might have a bit more leniency, and they'll say, oh, well, this happened. We didn't, get to this other job you wanted us to do. And there's a lot of... It's all about understanding and communication.
I remember having glow plugs done on a Discovery 3.
Yeah.
And our local Land Rover specialist, this is before I knew you, Martin, to be fair.
I wouldn't be touching glow plugs on a Discovery 3.
And I wouldn't blame you. They're the size of a biro pen.
They are tiny.
And they cost about £15 each. And obviously there's 6 of them. But we went into that with our eyes wide open. So David, he's the garage owner, he said these jobs very often can go wrong very quickly, and to manage your expectations, it may be a £500 job, it may be a £2,000 job, and depending on whether they come out or not. Obviously they didn't all come out, so there was a specialist, and you can imagine probably the most expensive bill I've ever had actually for a car in one sitting. And it was £2,056.
Oh,
that really, but I wanted it done properly.
Was that because they had to take the cylinder head off, or did they have a specialist come out and do it?
No, it would have been another £1,000 if that was the case.
Right.
The specialist spent 2 days drilling.
Well, this is it.
Out of the 6 out.
There's a lot of very successful companies now that just specialise in getting out glow plugs and injectors. They literally drive around the country, or an area of the country, with a van full of special tools. And if a garage snaps something off or can't get something out, they deal with it, and then off they go. The garage saves time because they're not messing around with it. And the customer saves money because the specialist, someone who does that every day, 7 days a week.
They're going to be quicker at it.
Yeah.
I would not have the patience for that job.
It's the same as any practice though, isn't it? If you rebuild gearboxes all day, every day, you're going to get, you get into a rhythm of it. If you're doing...
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people who rebuild Land Rovers or want to rebuild their Land Rover, they sort of, on the face of it, it's all nuts and bolts. But if you're getting into doing engines and gearboxes and diffs and paint and things like that.
That talks to me about paint. I cannot paint.
It's a real, it's a lot of different skills. And that's why when I go to, do features on Land Rovers we have in the magazine, I'm not surprised when I go to, quite a big company or, someone who's done it in their own garage and you say, oh, what did you do yourself and what did you get someone else to do? And it's often similar things, because if you were to, do the research, buy the parts, struggle with it yourself, you'd eat up a huge amount of time that you've perhaps set aside to do that rebuild or that restoration, and stressing yourself out to do something that someone else could do in no time at all because they do it all the time and they probably do it better.
Yeah, it's about picking your battles, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously we went to press yesterday with a magazine.
Yeah.
And the cover car there is somebody that's rebuilt their Land Rover in their own garage, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that's actually a really nice feature. That's a couple of brothers that bought an XRAF 90 from up north, and it was apparently mechanically absolutely fantastic, but it just looked hideous. It had just been, a bit run down. So they've done their own take on what they believe is sort of Land Rover in its purest form, and they've done a stunning job on it. But I'm not going to say too much more about that because you're going to have to buy the magazine to find out.
Good shout.
So
keep us in a job.
Sorry, yeah, you're not having any more information about it, but it is a stunning car, and I think a lot more people are doing that now because they're not making any more Defenders. They haven't done for some years now. Isn't it crazy to think that the last Defenders off the line, so 2015-16, are nearly 10 years old now?
I cannot believe how fast that time has gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I still see a 51 plate and think that's a modern car.
Yeah. We spoke about it in the last one, didn't we? The sort of body styles and shapes of a lot of the Land Rovers sort of post mid to late 2000s still don't look old when you see them on the road.
No, because people are rebuilding them now, and they there's companies that are putting in kind of Puma type style dashboards in earlier vehicles.
Yeah.
You can buy all of those bits and pieces. You can modernise it to
what's real interesting to see as well is, although a lot of people are doing the Puma bulkheads and Puma dashboards in earlier Defenders, a lot of companies like Mud UK are now reproducing bits of dashboard for older Defenders which have been obsolete for years, like the grey piece that goes up.
Yes, into the I know the piece.
And I'm sure people will start doing dash tops soon and other bits and pieces, because before, if you needed those, you were either into retrimming the one that you already had that was all manky,
putting body filler in the foam.
Yeah, and then either painting it or wrapping it in vinyl or something like that. Or, if you found a good condition one used, it would be a lot of money just because there weren't any around.
It's those corner pieces, isn't it, on the lower dash where the speakers go. They rot out, don't they? They've got that thin...
Yeah, the wiper motor cover.
That's it. Yeah.
They're
worth loads of money.
They hold water very badly. A lot of those people repair, so you take the old vinyl off and you can sort of...
But what if the steel, the metal? I've got one from my early 19, that's all rotten.
Oh, you can fix them if you're decent at metalworking. I've never done it. I've seen it done. A lot of, the popular restorers in the country will take one that's basically a sieve, form the metal, cut the old stuff out, weld it in, and then recover it in vinyl, and it looks like brand new. But that is a skill that you learn over years. It isn't something, if you do one, it might not look best. I mean, everyone has different standards, don't they? Some people would rather go out and spend X amount on the best used one they can find. Other people will take it as a bit of a learning curve and sit down and, learn those skills to bring their old one back round.
Yeah.
A lot of different ways of going about things like that.
But I always like to see restorations that somebody's done in otherwise not perfect, like locations, single garages.
Yeah.
Or under a tarpaulin at the side of their house, and they've turned out an absolute pristine vehicle. That, you've got to have,
I completely agree. There was one guy did, we had it was on the cover of an issue, earlier this year, and he'd done it all in a single garage. He'd done complete chassis overhaul. It wasn't a new chassis, but he'd repaired the old one. He'd fitted air suspension. He'd done a BMW engine.
Oh, yes. Cracking looking build.
Really lovely looking thing. He'd done some of the paint himself in a single garage and assembled the whole thing. And I just thought, wow, that's serious dedication. And shows what can be achieved in a small space. But also, on the flip side of that, it's not until you've taken a Land Rover completely apart you realise how much space it takes up.
Yes, I have noticed that.
We've already said before, the side of your shed, between your shed and your fence, looks like a spares day threw up down there, and it's like there's just parts everywhere, isn't there?
I kind of, now and again, I look down there and I think I need to crack on and tidy this up.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we did find that was really useful, and that was on our YouTube channel as well, is a Clark temporary garage.
Yeah, so we put that up fairly recently, didn't we? And what a cracking space. It's like I've taken it down at the moment because I needed to swap stuff around.
Yeah.
I haven't got, in an ideal world, my garage would be 4 times the size, and so my driveway.
In everyone's ideal world. Everyone.
But I know the problem with that is I would fill it.
Oh, definitely.
And I was in danger of, with that Clark temporary garage, it would become permanent.
Yeah.
Because I would start putting stuff in it. I'll just put that in there for now.
Before you know it, it's been up.
It's full.
6 years.
So yeah, I've taken it down, but with a view to putting it back up again when I attempt to. But I need to get a bulkhead from a Land Rover, from my other 90.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you assess a bulkhead, you think, I could weld that up now. I'm confident enough in my welding to fabricate that, but it will never be 100%.
Right, okay. I can't remember. I don't know if I've had a decent look at that one. But...
You'll have to come round and have a look.
Great.
Yeah, put your welding gauntlets.
But no, the Clark garage, honestly, a friend of mine had one a couple of years ago, and I remember being impressed then because he lived out in the middle of nowhere and it was getting battered by the wind and the rain all the time, and it held up incredibly well, and yours was the same.
Mine's been through a storm already, or 2. We had that storm within the last couple of months. Yeah, didn't phase it.
And ideal as well. Again, we were talking about people restoring Land Rovers at home, painting. It would be ideal for painting stuff because as soon as the sun gets over it, because it's like a dark green colour, it gets really nice and warm inside. If you were painting different panels, that would be perfect.
Yeah, I was looking at somebody painting the other day, and they were using Paint Man paints.
Yeah,
they're all over TikTok, and they churn out some pretty nice stuff. Obviously, I think I don't know much about paint, but I would be inclined to go and see them if I was to paint something myself again.
Panels as well. They do panels. You can buy all sorts of tub replacement panels and doors and things like that.
Yeah, they used to operate under Range Rover tailgates or something. You used to better buy the upper tailgates for Range Rovers.
Oh, the old aluminium one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've had a couple of Range Rovers with aluminium top tailgates. And much nicer than the flexible steel ones, which were quite awful and often rotten.
Yeah.
But right, okay, let's crack on with feature of the week, which is quite a nice one. I was quite excited about this. It's in our classics section of Land Rover Monthly, and it is a 129-inch wheelbase, affectionately called Lofty.
Is that because it's tall?
It is. It's tall and it's wide and it's quite long as well. It's basically a back in the 50s, Land Rover wanted to sort of get into the market in the Middle East and do something like the oil field trucks like Dodge was doing with the Power Wagon. So they made a few prototypes. Unfortunately, it never got properly off the ground, but one of those prototypes exists. It lives on at Dunsfold, at the Dunsfold collection.
I don't know, right, yes. Now,
you've seen it. We've seen it in person, haven't we? Yeah, it was
to an open day.
Absolutely amazing thing.
It is lovely. Do you know what? It looks really cool.
It's massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is like...
I would like to have a go.
Yeah, so would I. It doesn't... You don't immediately think, wow, that's a Land Rover, because it's huge. But yeah, leaf sprung. It's got the leaf springs up on top of the axles, front and rear Salisbury axles. Big old tyres. It's got... they did a variety of different models with different engines, but really, really good. A really interesting read. Gary Pusey does a fantastic job, as usual. And if you do get the chance to go to the Dunsfold collection to have a look at it yourself, definitely do, because it is one you'll want to see. A really, really stunning Land Rover.
So what you're saying then, that was Land Rover's take on what was the Dodge Power Wagon?
Yeah, it was built to be a competitor, but they didn't really have the... well, there's various reasons it didn't work out, and they're all in the feature, so be sure to grab a copy of the of Land Rover Monthly and read about it yourself.
Yeah.
And also, we're going to roll on now to Product of the Week, and we have got some very smart storage lockers, which, do you know on the old Wolf Land Rovers, they have lockers in the side of the tub on
The
110s.
110s, yes.
Yeah. You can now buy those off the shelf from lrbulkheads.co.uk, and you can fit them yourself to your 109 or your 110. So that dead space...
There's a load of space there, actually, isn't
There's
there?
tons of space. You can cut a nice hole in the side, and you've got these heavy-duty lockable storage lockers, which they work with or without. If you've got rock sliders fitted, they'll sit comfortably above those, and made out of zinc-plated mild steel, so they won't rust.
Okay.
Yeah, look a really nice thing. If I was keeping my 109's green tub, I'd consider putting these where the disgusting, rotten old fillery bit is. If you've ever seen the sides of my 109, you've seen the sides.
I have.
And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
It's nasty.
Someone looks like they've applied some filler to the tub with, I don't know, a spoon. It's
Back of a shovel or something.
and then instead of trying to blend it in and make it look proper, the same colour as the rest of the body, they've just found some dark green somewhere and like thrown it from a distance.
Didn't stop you buying it?
No, it definitely didn't. That's a story for another day, because that's quite an adventure in itself, actually. But for now, that's it. We'll we'll bring this one into land as another famous podcaster would say. Oh, another famous podcaster.
Like we're famous. Episode 3 of the podcast.
Oh, we're all very excited about the podcast. You see, it's been a great, it's good to just sit down and have a chat, isn't it?
Yeah. And before we go, we'll add, if anyone actually wants to follow us on Instagram, I intend to upload a few more pictures to my own Instagram account. I don't know about you, Martin.
Yeah, I put the occasional picture on. You might see what I'm up to. You might see I tend to put stories on really more than posts. But yeah, give us a follow.
Follow me at Steve_Miller_automotive
And
on my own personal account.
Yeah, you can give me a follow as well if you like. I'm Land_Rover_Martin. So, and obviously follow Land Rover Monthly on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff, because we'll carry on bringing you as much great Land Rover content as we can.
Yeah. Let's go and eat cake.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it?
Because it's Friday. How many cakes do we have?
Or what? 4.
4 cake Friday.
That begins to the left.
Yeah. So
4 cake
2
Friday.
cake Tuesday.
Yeah. 3 cake Thursday, 4 cake Friday.
We like cake.
Dangerous. Right, well, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye for now.